G'day guys, as I always say on this channel, My Blue Heaven, welcome to the review this time. Physically, I am feeling a lot better, and once again, thank you to all the well wishers. It was a tough week last week physically. I am not quite there yet, but I am getting better. Emotionally, I'm okay. And when I talk emotionally, I'm talking about our football team here. I feel okay. And it's easy 48 hours later when you do a review of the game, you know, once the dust settles, it's easy to say, yeah, everything's okay. But I must say I felt fine. I wasn't happy losing that game, and I didn't like the performance, but I just turned the TV off. I wasn't interested in any post-mortems or listening. I just turned the TV off and had a good night's sleep. Probably because, and I don't mean to be Nostradamus here or a smart ass, I did mention in my preview that off gut feeling rather than facts, I'm going to deal in facts with this. I felt this performance was going to come, and really I thought it was going to come quickly, because we have been up for a period of time, and even in that period where we were dropping some games, it was a really tough period, and then we got on that roll. It was going to be really, really difficult because there's just some quality outfits out there, quality football teams, and the Giants are one of those. Whether you like it or not, they're a good football team when they're on, and they've been super inconsistent. We got them on a really good night. It was going to come. You can't just spank every team, and it would be great if you could. Football would be wonderful if it was like that, but at the same time, I think it would be, I don't know, be somewhat boring if every week you were just spanking the opposition. And I think these downs at times do keep you alert, and just give you a little bit of feedback in regards to you. We are a good team. There's no doubt about that. We've proven that. But we're not that good. We're not that good. No team's that good all the time. And that's just the way a competition is. Every fucking team wants to win, you know. Every team wants to win a grand final. Every team wants to position themselves in the best possible situation to give themselves that opportunity to play in the last game of the year and potentially win a grand final. And we're just one of 18 teams that are trying to do that. But I'm going to deal in facts here. It was a bad performance. You know, we dropped the game, played poorly for 2.5, 3 quarters. We were made to look like second rate, and it was the awful Carlton. But let's have a look at it. We're second on the ladder. And for the most part, we have proven that we are a consistent football team, a hard, consistent football team with a really solid game plan, both offensively and defensively. But on Saturday night, for big periods of that game, we were picked apart and made to look second rate, and that happens. They were on, we were off, and we were made to pay. If that continues, and there's no guarantees, I don't want to really hope here, but it happens. But if that becomes a trend, or if that continues into next week, and we start to be inconsistent for this, the last part of this year, and we start to jeopardize that really strong position we are in right here, right now, then we have some problems, and we can start to then react strongly. But I'm not going to do it. I just think this team of ours has got enough credits in the bank to say that they're going to hit back. I trust that they will. But I will say this, and I mentioned it last week. We are that team. We are that team that is consistent. We are that team that has some serious weapons, serious gears, and we've achieved something, and that is sitting second on the ladder. We've achieved consistency, but we've achieved nothing yet. And that's the way it's going to be until Michael Voss and Patrick Cripps are holding that Premiership Cup, if that ever happens, because there's such a long way to go. The hardest part is in front of us. And that makes it pretty much, let's just see what this group has got. Because as much as a lot of our supporters like to pot the likes of Richmond, in their demise, and pot Collingwood, for being outside of the top 8 at the moment, all that type of stuff. And I understand the rivalry, I understand the banter. The facts of the matter are that those teams, okay, they went there. They went there and they grabbed that Premiership Cup because they had the intestinal fortitude to do so. They cashed in. And experienced it. And credit must go to them for being able to do that. We've achieved nothing yet. So I'm just like, fuck, I understand we're a good football team, but it doesn't mean anything to me yet until we actually prove, okay? Because this winning is everything. Winning is everything. And winning a grand final is everything. We're not here to be fucking making up numbers, and not here to be, carrying on like pork chops about how wonderful we are. Okay, look at the position we're in. It's a fucking tough competition, and I'm just going to cool my jets until it actually happens. And until it happens, we're just another team. It's as simple as that. All right. It's funny because I don't know about you, but I was in constant dialogue or texting with my son on Saturday night during the game in the first quarter, and he's living in Alice Springs at the moment. It's a lot easier to do when you're watching the game on TV, just texting back and forward, rather than being at the game. But even in that first quarter with that flying start, and that's a positive because it's almost like we're coming with such a great mindset and a good attitude in these games. It's not like we're getting blown out of the water in any game. But in that first quarter, when we got on that roll, it was almost, this is too good to be true. It's too sort of easy. And maybe that was just me being a little bit burnt by previous interstate trips, prelim final last year against Brisbane, and then that game against Sydney, and then that goal late in the quarters after you've just dominated and had this blistering run where you look like, fuck, you're just gonna roll over any opposition, and then the opposition just get that easiest of goals. And I mean the easiest of goals. And this time it was Darcy Jones at the 33-minute mark of that first term. Kicked the goal. Was it on the siren? And it just shifted the momentum. It just ever so slightly shifted the momentum the Giants' way. They got that sniff. They went in with a bit more confidence. And from then on, for 2 quarters, it was just one-way traffic. And we were made to look like a bottom 2 team. We really were. The awful Carlton returned. And I understand the Giants played exceptional football, but we had no response. And you would think that a team in our position, a team with our credentials, a team with our capabilities would be able to respond somewhat in that moment. Now, I thought we did for a tiny period where we got back-to-back goals. When did they hit the front in that second quarter? I can't remember, but Patrick Cripps kicked that amazing goal on the run, and then Fantasia kicked one. And I thought, here we go, we've just taken that momentum away from them. But then they just went away again. And yeah, they just made us look really, really ordinary, and we just could not get our hands on the ball. And it's funny, isn't it? Because we start to once again question the speed of this team, the pace of this team. When you've got the ball, you look quick. You move the ball quick. When you haven't got the ball, it just exposes all the flaws. Defensively, it exposed us. Our back half was just all at sea. We had no pressure in our front half. We're all over the shop. And I'm just like putting it down to just a bad night. A bad night at the office, and you have those. But it just makes this week against the Western Bulldogs such a mouth-watering contest, and suddenly you become very, very nervous, because they are a very unpredictable football team, the Western Bulldogs, particularly at Marvel Stadium. So, yeah, and I'm not here to preview that game. So I'm not going to go on and on about this performance. It is pointless. The fight back late in the game was somewhat admirable. Never really looked seriously like winning it. It was a bit like the Geelong game where we come with such a late rush. But you just felt, nah, this hasn't been our night, and we don't necessarily deserve to win that game. And but to fight it out, it could have been an absolute fucking blowout. But we did fight it out. But to concede 60 inside 50s, to concede a score over 100. Is not good enough, and not good enough at all. So we don't want that to become a trend. So I'm just going to go through the players. Let us know, as usual, your thoughts moving forward. It wasn't a great game from a team point of view. When you lose, you start to question the coaching. You start to question the selection. There's a lot of things you question. It's just the way it is. But I will go through the players individually, because I think on the night we didn't have many winners at all. And there wouldn't have been too many players that have walked off that ground with their head held high. So we'll go in number order. Lockie Cowan, just under the pump all night. Second year player, under the pump. It's been in good form, but he was exposed. I think all our defenders were pretty much exposed for the whole night. They were under the pump. I didn't think he was awful, but yeah, it wasn't a great performance by the youngster. I mean, I think Ollie Holland's stats of 17 are a little bit misleading. I thought he was pretty average on the night. Don't think he's been in great form. I think he's a little bit hot and cold, and he's another second year player, and understand his running ability, understand he covers the ground really well, but he fumbles. He's not particularly a great user. He's a bit hit and miss. 143 metres gained from a winger is not great. And I think there's slight concerns on him and his role in the team on that wing. I thought Adam Chera, he had a pretty average night, second game back. Just was indicative of a midfield that was well beaten, and I mean well beaten. Zach Williams, he was on fire early in the game, kicked a couple of nice goals, but as the night progressed, he made a really bad mistake there where he slipped and tried to dodge, and then it was a turnover and they kicked a goal. I think he made the most of his opportunities early. Didn't think he was the worst of our players. I think Kennedy battled on okay. kicked 2 goals. I think he was one that was trying to get us back into that game late. He looked pretty dangerous, forward of centre. But when he was in the midfield, we were just well beaten. Fogarty had a poor night. Kicked 3 last week, couldn't hit the scoreboard this week. Patrick Cripps was by far our most prolific midfielder. I think he really tried to lift the group, to inspire the group. He had Bedford go to him after Bedford took care of Walsh. I just thought for the whole night, he tried to lead this group. I am getting a little bit sort of tired of hearing stuff about, Patrick Cripps. And it's just talk. It is talk, but I get a little bit tired of this Brownlow medal talk. I think it's the last thing that would be on his mind. And really, it should be the last thing that's on any supporter's mind. We've gone beyond that. We've gone beyond individual accolades for this football team. We've gone beyond having just one player or 2 players or 3 players, star players, sort of be the limelight in this group. This is about winning games of football. This is about being a very, very strong, consistent football team, not about talking about Brownlow medals and Patrick Cripps got another 3 votes. It's just bullshit. Thought Harry was good, particularly early, with his goals. Clearly our best key forward. Funny game, TDK. You look at those disposals, 24 touches, 11 clearances. Early in that game, he looked unstoppable. He looked like the best ruckman that ever played the game. But as the game progressed and Big Briggsy started to just... I've heard the term bully. I just thought it was a really good learning game for TDK in the ruck, particularly at the centre square. He just was off balance, and that happens. I think he's still learning that craft at the centre square, and if his leap and his jump is impeded somewhat, and this is what Briggs did really well, and he was off balance, he was caught off guard. I'm not getting caught up in the fact that we need Pitnet in there to be able to give us that sort of strength. I'm not getting caught up into that right here, right now, because then those numbers are exceptional. 418 metres gained, and he ran around probably for most of the night a little bit sore. But you do look at the influence of Briggs in the second and third quarter when they started to dominate clearances. So it's something just to look out for rather than getting super concerned about. Akers, once again, when the game looked like it could go our way, it was Blake Akers was the one that was really driving his wing, kicked that great goal in the last quarter, but it wasn't a super night by Blake Akers. Orazio Fantasia, poor night, other than that goal, just had a poor night, couldn't get into it and subbed out. Brody Kemp, just all at sea against Hogan. Had to take that role when Wiedering went off, and Hogan's just a brute. He's just a brute of a player, and he made him look second rate. I felt a little bit for Brody Kemp. I think it's okay to question his spot in the team in regards to is he the second key defender if we're going to play that way? If we want to release Gov as that intercept defender, where does that leave Brody Kemp in the scheme of things? He's going to have to come up against a bigger body. Is he good enough to play that role? Well, he wasn't on Saturday night, but he was exposed. Defensively, our whole back 6 or 7 was exposed for the whole night because further upfield, it was just too easy. Our midfield, our wingers, our half forwards, they just didn't apply enough pressure. One of the worst games I've seen Sam Walsh play. Just couldn't break the tag at all. He ended up with 22. When you play big midfield minutes, you're always going to rack up the pill. He works that hard, but I just thought he had a really rotten night. Elijah Hollins, I thought was poor. I didn't like his game. he's going to have those sort of performances. He's still really young. He's still really young and still learning, and he's had a really good block of games. He's at 16 touches, but really no influence on the game. Wiedering was just impeded for the whole night. Oh, God, doesn't he fucking cop some corkies? Oh, my God. Would he have played on Hogan if he was right? I mean, he's such an important player for us, but yeah, you just hope that those injuries are not too bad, but we were exposed when he wasn't on the ground. Nick Newman, yeah, wasn't as effective as he has been. Curnow just had an off night. And the same with, I'm gonna say this, with Charlie Curnow. He's an exceptionally talented and exciting footballer, playing one of the hardest positions on the ground, because you get someone who just locks down on you and their sole job is to defeat you one-on-one. And he had Jack Buckley, who took him to the cleaners. He ended up getting on the scoreboard late. I could not give a fuck about the Coleman medal. And I don't know what goes inside individuals' heads, whether they care about that sort of stuff or whether that's high on their agenda. It would be 3 Coleman medals in a row if he somehow pulled, or if he does pull it off. But for me, Charlie, whether this is fair or not, his performances this year are going to be measured on not necessarily how well he plays now in the home and away season, but his performances this year are going to be measured on his impact he has in the finals. And at the moment, I think he's leading the Coleman. Is that correct? He's a consistent goal kicker, but he's not, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's having a really outstanding year, which is kind of good because we're still winning games. But we need him to fire, because the elephant in the room is the fact that last year he had a really, really poor final series. It's as simple as that. And when you're vice captain of the football club and you touted as one of the best players in the competition and one of the best goal kickers in the competition and this and that, and you perform pretty poorly in 3 big finals, the pressure will come. The pressure will come in time for Charlie Curnow. And he may come out this week and kick 7 against the Western Bulldogs. He might come out and kick 8 against the West Coast Eagles when we go across to the West and play there. But I'm waiting for the finals this year with Charlie Curnow, because that's where he's going to be. That's where he's going to come of age. It's as simple as that. Boyd had a poor night, fumbled, dropped marks, just had an off night. Alex Cincotta, what role did he play? Was he playing on Stephen Caniglio? This is what I don't get with Alex Cincotta. We were getting belted in the midfield, particularly in the centre, in quarters 2 and 3. Now, if he was running with Steve Caniglio, why was he starting outside the square then going to Caniglio? Because Caniglio was being dominant in the middle of the ground at the coalface. It just seems stupid that he then go track Caniglio around the ground, but just they were leaving Caniglio. I know we wanted to keep our structures in the centre of the ground, but Caniglio became such a dominant force at the centre square. And where was Cincotta at that time? Yeah, it was just a really bizarre night for Alex Cincotta, and I just wanted to know really what his role was. Who was he actually playing on? Was it Caniglio? Because it didn't work. It didn't work. Sard, poor night. Always was a sub, came on, can't really rate his performance. Matthew Cottrell, underdone, looked slow, played on Whitfield, did okay early. Whitfield got into the game. I felt like we were just really defensive, with playing both Cincotta and Cottrell as sort of lockdown players. And you go into these games when you're so defensive with these types of players, bet you a ball winner short. And I mean a ball winner short. And it felt that way with Matthew Cottrell playing. So it'll be interesting to see over the course of the next few weeks what that looks like, with both Chin Cotter and Matthew Cottrell, who are both essentially those run with type players or defensive type players, whether we run with both of those leading up to the finals. Anyway, guys, that's enough. 25 minutes is enough. Tell me what you think in the comments below. But I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to the Western Bulldogs. I really am. I think that's going to be a big, big game, and it's sweetie bum crack time. Take care.